Welcome, everybody, to another week of Maple Live. And this is actually our second time recording this episode today. The live episode we recorded earlier, we had some technical difficulties and there was no sound. So here we are again, and hopefully we can offer you a better show, even better than the beautiful show we had this morning.
Yeah, juicier.
Juicier. And with us today, you'll notice this is not Kish. Kish is away. This is Matt, who is usually doing tech work and planning work behind the scenes, so we're very happy to have Matt with us this week.
Hopefully I can be as charismatic and wonderful as Kish, so we'll see.
It'll be effortless.
I don't know about that, but we'll see what happens.
So Matt, what do we have in store for this week?
Yeah, we got some great stuff in store again. We've got the clip of the week. One of our longest residents here is in training to be a teacher and led a retreat this past week. Her first retreat as in the teacher role, and it was all about participation. So there's a great clip about how to fully participate in life and sort of delegating your understanding over to others and what that's like. So that's going to be awesome. Stay tuned for that. And then we're going to get to actually talk to Ren herself about participation and get some more sort of interactive information. So then we're going to do a 10 seconds or less clip about participating and how the training helps you participate. We're going to do some Maple updates, including a video update from resident Joe Pucci, who runs Maple Online and all of Maple Online's offerings. We're going to talk a little bit about how to practice and participate in practice, and of course our regular picks of the week and upcoming events. So stay till the end because you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, so to get us started with that wonderful flow that Matt just shared, here is a clip of Ren from the most recent retreat.
We're born into a world with a lot of knowledge. There's more knowledge than any of us can intake in a lifetime. And so it kind of makes sense when we're born into such a world that, given all the information that's out there, probably I should defer. Probably someone else has done all the work already, and I can just outsource my intelligence and my reasoning and my faith to these other sources that are so plentiful. But that definitely feels like a trick on some level to me. Like it's asking us to forget something really important about life and about what's really at the center and what it really means to live and investigate and observe. If I ask someone else to do all the learning for me, what does that mean? If I give up my authority or my power to someone else, what does it mean for me to be alive, to be participating in life, in this world? Who am I and what do I become?
All right. Great. So here with us we have Ren.
Hello.
And Ren, as Matt mentioned in the intro, led the teaching role in the most recent retreat. And the theme she chose to kind of base her talks and base the retreat around was participation. So Ren, I'm curious, to you, what does participation mean in this context, and why is it important to you, or why did you think it was an important theme to bring into the retreat?
Yeah, so basically I just looked around and thought to myself, what do I want to tell these people? Like, what do they need to hear? And this is true not just of people at Maple, but I think one thing people could really use a lot more of is a sense of centeredness and empowerment in their own practice, their own path, their own spiritual journey, a sense of ownership of that journey, and realizing like, this is on me. This is like, this is the purpose of life for me, is like to make my own choices, to learn, to grow. That's kind of my job. And so I think one reason that's really important is that if you don't center your life around like ownership of your path, then that often leads to outsourcing that to other sources, to teachers or adults or books or people you think might be wise, but all of those external sources like are not you. They're not getting all the data. They're not getting all the information about what your life is like. So they can never know as much as you do about like what your wisdom is, where your wisdom's coming from. And I've seen it go badly where I might want to defer my wisdom to someone else and end up not trusting my own judgment, my own sense of well-being or what I need, or what my path, what should be next in my path, or what would cause me to feel more alive and more connected. And I believe outsourcing that very important sense can lead to sometimes harm, sometimes danger. There's rocks along that path, and I don't like to see people get out of balance in that way. So yeah.
Wow, beautiful. And yeah, as a way to kind of to experiment and to have the direct experience of the thing we were trying through experimentation, and then choose based on that direct experience on what way to go. You also mentioned investigation and observation as kind of key traits in this path of experimentation. So I'm curious, in your path, do you have a story of experimentation or anything that can kind of share with people more about the importance of experimentation in finding your way?
Yeah. So on the topic of just like feeling empowered to make choices that are right for you, while being in line with the monastic container that we're in, one thing that I did early in my time at Maple was I actually decided to take on Fire Kasina as one of my main meditation practice. And in fact, I had props with me. I had like a table and a candle and like a little screen to like block the candle, and I would bring those props with me into the Zendo or the place where we sat. And I've never seen anyone else have props like this here at Maple before or after. And so it was kind of an interesting, like stretching a little bit to see like, okay, is this allowable? Are they gonna say I can't do this? But in fact, they told me it was fine. And so I basically felt empowered in that moment to make a choice for me that seemed a little outside of the normal scope of what people do when they meditate here, which is usually just you just sit there. Your eyes are probably closed and you're just sitting there. And I had like my little candle set up. So for me at the time, I felt that was like the right thing for me to try next. I found myself very interested and stimulated by the visual field, by the focus space of sight. And I wanted something that was like dynamic and moving to kind of keep my interest engaged. And when you're a newer practitioner, it's helpful to actually enjoy the practice, like actually find it fun. And so I wanted to try something that I personally would find fun. And I'm glad I did that.
Beautiful. And also in your response, I hear like a balance, like working within this monastic container or having a teacher and kind of respecting the, instruction of the teacher, or, following the Dharma and respecting the teachings from the Buddha. So how do you balance that kind of teaching and being kind of guided and given instructions with this experimentation? how to find that balance, I guess.
That's really tricky, actually.
Yeah.
Some people are gonna need the opposite advice of like give more respect to the teacher. Like just follow their instructions straightforwardly. Like don't try to add or subtract from the guidance or the instruction, and just do the thing that they're asking you to do. And some other people will need the advice of be more flexible, like take more time to play around and experiment and have fun with your practice. So it's tricky to balance these things, but the way I basically see it is that I'm the experimenter. Like I'm running the investigation. Like this is ultimately my project of like trying to gain new insight into the nature of reality, and this is my mind. So in a way, everything that comes in is for that sake, whether it's Soryu's instruction or from sutras that I'm reading or just like daily life community feedback. In a sense, I kind of have to always funnel it into a centered practice, the sense that the center of my practice and the main question that I am always holding in here, it's always coming into that in some way. It's fueling that in some way. It's informing that in some way. So there's always a question alive in me, and it's always got to come through into the question. And it's good not to get too attached egotistically to my question or my practice. It's like not about that so much. And so you want to be careful about not getting too caught up in knowing the right thing to do for yourself. You have to be open to not knowing also. It's very important. For if you're investigating, not knowing is kind of the first step of investigating anything. Like you can't just go into it thinking that you know what the answer will be or what you're supposed to do. So you have to be really open to like everything. Yeah,
I'm hearing like a curiosity and a humility kind of, oh, maybe I don't know the answer. Let's look into it closer.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And it's the same way you described kind of the teachings or the spiritual reading you do, it informing your experimentation. It's kind of like the training here informs our participation in the world and kind of enables us to fully engage more. And this is actually the question for this week's 10 seconds or less, which will come after this interview. So I'm curious, based on your experimentation here at Maple, based on your training here, what are one or two ways that these experiences have helped you or are helping you to more fully or more powerfully participate in the wider world?
Yeah, so before getting to Maple, I was pretty averse to receiving any negative feedback. I would energetically almost just like avoid it, and like other people knew to not give it to me because of how I think they could sense my fear of it. And the way that I was showing up, basically, I was dodging receiving any negative feedback subtly and sneakily. But the more time I've spent here in the training, the more I've opened up to receiving that negative feedback, and in fact like wanting that negative feedback and fearing of I have somewhat more fear of not hearing from people now, and getting a real sense of how am I showing up, how am I impacting the group, how can I be doing this better. I want to be learning, and I feel a lot safer, a lot more open and able to take in more varieties of like information and data, which is super important if you really are seeking truth, if that's kind of your orientation in life. In my view, the direction to go in is being more and more open to more data, generally, like just learning how to be the kind of person that can take in more and more, and like not be closing off or shutting down or avoiding certain parts of reality, selective parts of reality, creating blind spots. Like you really want to be learning how to open up more senses to everything. So Maple has really helped me do that.
Yeah, and as part of the culture here, we kind of see this giving and receiving of feedback as an act of spiritual friendship, where if you see somebody in the community doing something that's harmful to themselves or harmful to someone else or to the wider environment, it's an act of friendship to say, hey, like you could do that in a little bit of a different way, or like maybe the thing they're doing is clearly wrong, like you're putting the spoon where the bowl should go. And you're just going to say, hey, the spoons go over there. So those small acts of feedback are an act of love or an act of care, or ultimately an act of friendship. So it's beautiful, and that's also been a big growth area for me, the ability to receive and give feedback, which, it's definitely a very useful skill for leadership. Leaders need to
totally
be able to give and receive feedback skillfully.
That's very true.
So is there anything else you'd like to add or anything else you'd like to share?
The other thing that I feel Maple has done for me in my practice is like basically believe that I can do it. Like it's weird how hard that is to find in the world. Just somebody really believing in you and like really acting as though you can totally meet your full potential as a person, as a human, as a being, as a spiritual practitioner, and then acting as though that's actually true, which looks so different from everything else I've ever really encountered. I've tried harder here than in many of my previous jobs, or the way I've applied myself in the past. I've always held back. I'm very used to holding back, but there are a few times, at least a few times at Maple, where I've like actually thrown myself in and broken through senses of my own limitations. And so feeling that power and knowing that you can do that is actually like really opens up the sense of like, oh, I have a lot more range and a lot more power to make this work, to do things that will further my journey and my path, and I don't need to hold back.
That's beautiful. Like cultivating power through empowerment or through being empowered.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
It's like having a reason to have faith in yourself.
Right. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
From here, we're going to hear from other residents here at Maple on how their experience of the training here has helped them to more fully participate in the world. Hey, Ellen, what is one way that participating in the training here at Maple helps you to participate more fully in the world?
The training here reminds me what's truly important in life, and then when I interact with family and friends and people out in the world, I feel more connected to what really matters.
Oh, I appreciate the little things a lot more. Family and friends, and the importance of loving them truly.
I think I show up better and people can see that I'm more engaged.
It helps me to concentrate better, sleep better, do more of always dreamed of doing.
Hey, Kemma. In 10 seconds or less, what is one way that participating in the training here at Maple helps you to more fully participate in the world?
It helps me see the suffering in the world more clearly and feel it more viscerally, such that I can't pretend that I don't have an enormous responsibility to do something about it.
I'm better and better at helping to create a more loving world by
to get over my sort of selfish, enclosed world and to care about life beyond myself.
It helps me stay centered and grounded, even amidst very hectic situations.
Damn, we got some wise people here.
Yeah, and some wise people that are really being impacted by the offerings.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we get into some updates?
Let's do it.
All right, so one of the things that you may or may not know about Maple is that in addition to our in-person events, we have a variety of online offerings. So one of the things we did this week was we wanted to get some updates about what's going on with Maple Online. There's some really exciting things that are going to be happening soon and that have happened recently. So we're going to get a quick update from resident Joe Pucci, who runs the Maple Online program, about what's going on there.
Hi friends, it's Joe here. I'm a resident at Maple and I'm in charge of designing, managing, and facilitating our online education presence. We just finished up our morning meditation and exercise period, as well as our communal breakfast. And before we start the workday, I wanted to provide an update for y'all on some of the exciting projects that we've been up to in this realm, as well as some of the new offerings that you can look forward to in the near future. So our online programming really began once COVID rippled through our organization. We were forced to shift from in-person retreats to different online education programmings in order to continue to support our wider community. So the main way that this ended up manifesting was that we created a 6-week cohort-based course that was an iteration of a week-long in-person retreat that we called the Awaken Leadership Intensive. And this retreat was a boot camp or sort of buffet of our core practices that we do here. And it involved meditation, interpersonal meditation, a practice called circling, different emotional processing modalities, a peer coaching framework for making effective choices, and then a vow commitment ceremony where we connect with what's most important to us and what we're really here to do and how to accord our behavior to be in alignment with what's most important. So we converted this week-long retreat into the 6-week cohort-based course, and we've now run 4 cohorts of it. And most recently, we had 17 folks from over 8 countries. And it was such a beautiful experience to be able to hold space for these practitioners doing this deep and extremely meaningful work together in community. So we're going to be launching cohort 5 at the beginning of the new year in January, so you can look forward to that. But we're also going to be expanding our online education. So the cohort-based course is a proven and effective model, but it does require a lot of trust in us. It does require a lot of time and energy and resources. It's not easy to sign up for a 6-week course. And so we want to offer shorter form, more frequent, and more accessible offerings, such as weekly meditations and circling practice groups, community conversations, a workshop where you can learn about our core ecology of practices and get a taste of them, and then other shorter form courses that intelligence. What are our emotions that tell us about what's really most important to us? So you can look forward to these offerings, and in the coming week or two, I'll be sending out an email to our newsletter to formally announce and send out links for these different offerings. So stay tuned for those, and I hope to see you joining them sometime soon. Thanks.
So that's just some of the amazing stuff we've got going on here. There's so many amazing projects in addition to Maple Online. So many, it's kind of incredible. It was one of the things that really surprised me when I got here, was like how many cool things are going on. Right. So each week we're going to try and do different updates of projects, of different things that are going on that you might have no idea about. Right. And somehow we meditate for like 6 hours a day too. So anyway, or 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours. So other updates. Last week we had a really unique retreat. In addition to Ren running her first retreat, that was a 5-day retreat. We also had a 3-day retreat with a Sufi teacher called Mary Hand. So Sufism is one way to describe it, the way Mary described it. It's the mystical tradition within Islam, sort of like Kabbalah is to Judaism. And she taught us about the qualities in Sufism, the divine qualities. She taught us how to chant to get in touch with the divine. She also taught us a lot about Sufi theory. It's a really powerful, interesting thing to get people who mostly are familiar with Buddhist practices and find other tools we can use along our spiritual path. What did you think of the Mary Hand and the Sufi retreat?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice compliment to the meditation and kind of reminded me of different things from those different ways of being in that portion of the retreat, and yeah, led me to a lot of interesting reflections that are kind of still lingering with me now. It's very unique to have another such a qualified teacher in a different tradition. It was really special, and then to go from that right to Ren, who is a fresh and new teacher and all new to her, that was really powerful and special too. Another update. This might not sound exciting, but hear me out. Maple has just released its quarterly report. And the quarterly report is sort of like Maple Live, but for the whole last quarter. They have updates about what's happening. They have little stories. If you're really interested, you can even look at our financials. So it's a really cool way to get an update on what's going on. You can check that out on our website. And then finally, we had a Care Day. So Care is actually a role here at Maple. And Care takes care of the emotional well-being of everyone here. And occasionally, in order to make sure that the emotional well-being of everyone is met, not necessarily need, but it's good to have a day where we can really focus on that emotional well-being. So we had one of those last week. And was that last week? Was it this week? Time kind of is...
Time is weird in fast-paced anime. But we had a Care Day recently. And what it was like sort of an unconference style. So somebody offered juggling, and another person offered meditation, and another person offered a cacao ceremony, and another person offered singing, and there was all activities that we could choose throughout the day to help us care for ourselves, in addition to practice in the morning and evenings as well, which is its own type of care. And it was a really great way to connect as a community and to connect back to ourselves on an emotional level, where we might normally be connecting with emptiness, which is a different way to connect with our emotions than what we would do on a Care Day. Do you have anything to add about the Care Day?
No, I always enjoy the Care Days, though. It's a nice change of pace and a way for the community to kind of relate to each other in a different way than the regular, kind of tight schedule. So I enjoy Care Days, and for me, I find them nourishing.
Yeah, I think it's a good, in that theme of participation, the Care Days are a good sort of opportunity to both lead and be led into nourishing yourself. All right, so practice tips.
Practice tip of the week.
Yeah, and what's a practice tip that you have?
So for me, when reflecting on the theme of powerful participation in the world and thinking of a practice tip to go along with that, I thought of the importance of always being in practice. So not just in your formal sitting period, which a lot of people have the misconception that meditation is, sitting with your eyes closed for long periods. That's a part of it, but the wider form of meditation is always being present, always being in the moment, whether you're sitting with your eyes closed or sitting with your eyes opened, or you're on the train or the bus, or you're washing dishes, or whatever you're doing. So for me, applying those meditation techniques throughout my day has been such a powerful experience. And just thinking of, taking the train, I went to visit my sister in between my apprenticeship and residency, and it was a long train ride. And just kind of one point in the train ride, I realized, wow, I'm meditating in the middle of this train full of baby headphones. I was, in deep meditation. So for me, that's the practice tip of the day. Try to take your meditation to the streets.
A little known fact, at least it wasn't known to me until you told us, was that statues of the Buddha actually have their eyes open because the Buddha meditated with his eyes open. I don't know exactly why, but possibly for this very reason, learning to begin to integrate this state with the world that we live in. I do have a question for you. What's your technique right now?
I'm following my breath. So breathing in from the belly and counting on the in-breath, and then exhaling, and then breathing in again, exhaling. And
this is a question we'll ask ourselves in the kitchen. Hey, what's your technique? How you doing? How's your practice going? So I like that this place trains us to bring meditation. Yeah. Right. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, that was it.
Great. So for me, when we talk about this idea of full participation, something that comes up for me was a retreat from a few months ago, where I was playing with this idea of full participation. And play is an important word there, because I was just sitting and I was like thinking, and I was like, Dan, I think we should. But I turned to the other person on the other side and said, hey, Jake, you want to get enlightened with me? And Jake was like, yeah, let's get enlightened. Which is playful and fun, but we sat down, we hatched out a plan. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go extra hard in meditation. We're going to do this strong determination sit where we don't move. We're going to do a cold plunge every morning. We're going to do an extra hour of meditation at night. And we're not going to get, maybe we'll get enlightened. Who knows? But it's just playful. Samadhi. Simply because we had set this playful frame that was also fully participatory. I think sometimes you think it's like, oh, I either got to go full serious and fully into it, or I can step back and not go so much into it and be light and playful. But where I find the most growth is
the picks of the week.
Yeah, well, there's lots of picks of the week. And the first one you see here is actually our second Zendo. Like I was saying, there's so many exciting things going on. There's just a new building now on campus. And it's going to be used for a lot of really cool things. It's going to sort of change how we interact here. One of the potential use cases for it is for the Dragon program. We wanted to go fully technical difficulties, please hold.
But we're recording still? Okay, we're back.
We're back. All right. What was the last? Do you know?
I don't know exactly.
So the Zendo. We get in that. It's the Dragon program is there. The Dragon program is for people who really want to focus on awakening. And now we have a whole Zendo so that they can really, if we're circling or something somewhere else, the Dragon program can just be meditating. And they can, I don't know, the teacher can be stricter in there, and it can be totally silent. Things like that. In addition to that, it's going to give us a place to do our interviews. Right now we do interviews in the main building. What that means is that it's hard for residential members who might not be at the sit where the interviews are happening. They have to be totally quiet. They can't really use the building that much, so that you don't pull people out of their practice as they're having interviews. But now that we have the second Zendo, we can do interviews in there, and that can give a better experience to a residential membership program, which is growing rapidly right now. And then finally, what's the final use case for this second Zendo? What am I missing? Oh, right. So the other Zendo sometimes get used for events. We do circling in there. Sometimes we have ceremonies in there. But being the monastic academy, we want somewhere that people can always practice, rain or shine. They know it will be quiet. They know it will be empty. They know it's for practice. And so the second Zendo is only for meditation, or if there's interviews going on, you'll be meditating in the main Zendo and doing your interviews in the second Zendo. So there will always be somewhere on campus that's free from the elements and quiet, and you're able to practice, which is really exciting for us here to have that resource. The second picture here is a beautiful flower. Why do we have a beautiful flower, Dan?
We have a beautiful flower because it's autumn here. Autumn shifting into winter, but there's a lot of beauty. Just walking around the trails here, you'll see a lot of beautiful foliage and trees, or leaves falling, starting to fall, trees bearing, and different flowers popping up like the one shown here.
Yeah, exactly. And then our final picture, you see some artwork here. And this is representative of a beautiful ceremony we have at the end of retreats, and that we had at the end of this last retreat, called expressions. And expressions, so I'm going to set the stage for you, all right? So you walk in, you're meditating for a bit, and then this wooden stick gets placed in the center of the Zendo. You're all on the outside, and then everybody's just sitting and staring at the stick, okay? Nothing's happening. All of a sudden, somebody gets up, grabs a stick, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
They could sing, they could dance, they could tell a story, they could talk about their experience, they could move around, they could yell. It's a time for them to, one, celebrate the wisdom they've learned, and two, share it with the rest of the community so that we can all benefit from that wisdom. So it's one of my favorite parts of the integration section of retreat. Unfortunately I didn't really participate in the second part of this last retreat because I was sick. But do you want to talk about anything or give them a slice of any part of this last expressions?
Yeah, it was quite unique, this one, given that we had the Sufi teaching in the beginning and the more traditional Buddhist teaching, which, the teachings are, in broader context, more mystical and include different spiritual traditions. So it was really unique, the different style that people shared and the different themes that people touched on, and really was a beautiful blend of poetry and singing and dancing and people just sharing direct experience. So it was a really powerful expression this last retreat.
Yeah. Well, at one point we had talked about putting our expressions into NFTs, but I think we nixed that idea, at least for now. All right, so do you want to talk about some of the events coming up?
Sure. Yeah. And this is a way that you can participate in some of the stuff that's happening at Maple and in the wider network. And first, in the wider network, the Chautauqua Tour, and this is the last event of this season's tour, and it will be in Minot, North Dakota, on November 6th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And this will include sound healing, meditation, and nature connection. And the next event is the November Awakening Week here, which is the head teacher Soryu's first retreat back after being away for a couple of months. It is still open for guests if people want to participate. And this retreat will be from November 12th to the 19th. You can find more info on the website if you want to learn more or ask any questions. And similarly, the December Awakening Week is scheduled for December 10th through December 17th. So we hope you're able to, get in touch with some of these events and explore if you feel called to do so. Again, more info on the website, which will be linked in the information below.
If you've never been to a Soryu retreat, I think one of the things you get from that is what Bren was talking about before. He just believes that you can awaken by the end of the retreat, and that energy is really powerful to experience. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but that's my experience of it. Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to do a retreat with Soryu, you've done retreats, maybe you've done a Goenko retreat, who also has a great energy, but you might want to check it out. I think it's highly worthwhile.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's it for this week, and I'm happy. It's everything has to come to an end.
That's true.
So we're happy.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're happy that you joined us and you're able to watch this, and yeah, we hope to see you in the coming weeks.
Bye, guys.
See you.